Welcome back, everybody, to Unconditional Surrender in Europe, game designed by Salvatore Vasta, published by GMT Games. This is a series that I am calling the Thousand Year Reich. At least at this point it looks like it's going to be that way. We are getting ready to go into January of 1941. There's going to be poor weather here, so we're going to have several turns, just like we did at the end of 1940 in the last video. I know it was a little bit long, but it seemed that the continuity mattered, so I strung it all together. And we will just go ahead and get started here. As a little quick recap, Britain has collapsed. So I don't have a lot to do with the West. And he's basically prepping to go east. So here we go. There are no declarations of war because I'm not allowed to and he didn't want to. The economies are fairly straightforward. Britain will be at 6. The Russians are at 28. The Germans are at 28 as well. And I don't remember if I don't think he gave any to the Italians. So we are now into the strategic warfare phase against the West. So he is at +3 because he has an airplane in Stavanger and he has ports on Sea Zone 7. And what are the other ones that he can get points for? Not that one. I didn't want that one. He gets Sea Zone 1, 2, 7, or 9. He has ports on like all of those. So fortunately he only gets +2 for any of them, not +2 for every one of them. But again, he's +3 to my 0. Oh, actually he's at +6 because he also owns the Suez Canal and he doesn't own the other one yet, does he? Checking the Middle East here. He doesn't own that one, so he should only be at +4. Maybe I adjust that. Let me see. Yes, he's down to +4. +4 to 0. He rolls a 9. Best I can get is a 6, which will make me lose a factory, so British lost factories go up to 7. We go into strategic movement for the Axis. I have no idea what he did. Where's the marker? I think he brings another Italian over. Oh no, he grabs a German that's in Brest, since he doesn't have to worry about me intervening there, and brings it over to the east. I go ahead because I'm at low supply and I didn't want to have the Turks getting to here because they could have moved to here. Not a good thing for me. Thought about moving it there and I figured I might as well just move on up because I don't think I'm going to be able to supply for very much longer. And Soviets didn't have ones, they just let the Axis go. And the Axis activate something already. Not sure what he's going to do. Oh, he's attacking over here. Into Plymouth. Or no, maybe he's attacking Greece? Maybe he's doing Greece. Yes, he's doing Greece. I throw ground support so that I'm only -1 to his +1. He rolled a grand total of 1, 2 -1, and I rolled a 4 -1, which is 3, so the Greeks are holding out against the Turks. And then I get my ground support right back in 1 turn. So on we go. Now he does the Italian Air Force move, which is kind of didn't see this one coming, but there's 1, 2, 3, 4 sorties to get all the way over to Baghdad. And then he goes ahead and just runs up my convoy. He couldn't get more than one sortie on me at -4, and I couldn't do anything at -5, so he just made sure that this guy here, the Western Desert Force, will go to no supply, and since he's a reduced unit, he'll actually be removed in the no supply phase. So that was a good move on his part. Now the German aircraft flies up into Turkey at Smyrna, and we counted if you go out over the ocean, you can get him into Romania for another sortie. So it takes 2 sorties to do that. And the Third Army just leaves. Just says, we don't need to be here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And this Turkish army comes running northward. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Excuse me, I have alarms going off. And we go. I think we were checking for control markers. Moves the Italian there into the front line. I really don't understand why the Italians are bothering to move into the front line, but hey. What do I know? He conquered England. He must have some idea of what he's doing. What that was. Decided to move that army up first there. We adjusted the production markers. Naval unit. Oh, he's just doing his replacements. If you look at his national tracks, he has 28. He basically didn't do anything with the Germans. That was on purpose. He is planning on building his surprise attack marker because it's still in his track, and he's going to want it for Russia. And it's January, so he wants to make sure he has it before May. So he replenished his fleet and his infantry unit. Let those guys go to low supply. He just replenished that guy for supply. He's doing supply here, I'm sorry. So we got a Western Action subphase. Because I strategically moved, I can't do anything with him. So I couldn't do anything, essentially. I mean, I could have moved the guy out of Plymouth, but I didn't see any reason to. Soviets didn't do anything, so we're on to no supply phase, where if I'd had a half a brain, I would have gone ahead and moved that convoy into my production. Then we go into Axis replacements. He brings his supply thing down to 3, replenishes the Italian convoys and the Italian air, and I think that's all he does. Upgrades, don't have anything. And then the Germans build their surprise attack marker, so it'll be back in May of 1941. He'll have it available at the first possible fair weather turn in the cold zone. And The West, I went ahead and built home there. I mean, I had a choice. I probably could have built Malta or Gibraltar first, but it just happened to be on top. Oh, I'm going. Now, I have 6 points for the British. Spent 1. And we get to here. This was the German. Where are we at? Okay. So that's my production. And then the British spent their 5 and put a political success and a no event in the bucket. I was hoping to pull a political success with the Russians. Spent 5 for the Russians, and they got a no event. So that didn't work. So now he has even a better chance of activating another ally next turn, but I figured it was worth the gamble because he'd already gotten Turkey, so was seeing if I could do something somewhere. And then we had gone to diplomacy and we forgot the no supply phase, so this is me actually rectifying that because he had to die in the no supply phase. No victory checks, we're just getting our stuff here onto the card from the turn track. Got his surface action back, and I got my ground support for the British back. And I believe that's it. We now go to the next turn. January moves to February, and he rolls a 5-4-6, which 5-4-6 in February is severe, poor, severe. So and he did not declare war, and I can't, so we go into the economy phase. Whole lot of nothing goes on there. We go into the strategic warfare phase against the West. He is at +4 to my 0. He rolls a 5. I roll a 5. So I actually chipped back a factory. Yay! Not that I have any factories to use. I have 1 factory in Plymouth, and I'm down 6 on the strategic warfare thing, so they don't really count anyway. And why is that? I'm confused. It can't be in supply. There we go. Okay. I think he forgot to mark that as low supply when he flew it up there. Anyway, he brings the Italians. Where did he take them? Oh no, he was actually... He picked up the German infantry unit when he picked up the strategic move marker, and he brings the Italian. Thus readjusting. He brings an Italian up into Hungary, so more Italians. The Russians decide to move this guy up to here. My thoughts were if he declared war on me, I'd declare war on Estonia, maybe take it, maybe not. But I didn't want him to have Estonia be able to just run down here and surround Riga. I wanted to not be able to do much of anything. And action subphase. So the Turks go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I move that over there, and he brings the Italian Air Force down. This Turk goes 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This guy goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And I think he actually attacks. This convoy leaves and takes the armored unit with it. And he's trying to figure out where was a good place to go because he wants to get the convoy back into England. When we counted, he couldn't get back if he went into Sea Zone 13. So he just stopped there. And Italian, now he's just doing supply. The Italian thing supplies his airplane. I think that's all he supplies because he has low supply from Cairo and Jerusalem and Damascus. Or not Cairo and Jerusalem, but from Damascus is 2 and from Tripoli is 2. So he can have 4 guys in low supply and he only has like 2 in the Middle East anyway. So he just supplies his airplane so he can keep replacing it. This convoy comes up to Venice. And brought the Panzer from what was it, Port Said, I think it was. So he's just getting his armor back into mainland Europe so he can get it over to the Eastern Front. And then this one finishes its turn back in Port Said. And then he moves the guy in Norway. 1, 2, 3, 4. And this guy moves up here. He's trying to figure out where to put him. Thought that was probably better. And then he had the Africa Army go for a run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Guy in Danzig moves up. And now he's just doing supplies. So he supplies his unit there. Puts low supply on that guy. And the Italians supply their airplane. And they are done. Western don't have anything to do. So it's like no move, no supply. And we go into the Soviets don't have anything to do, so we go into the no supply phase, the Soviet replacements phase, or Axis replacements. Now he brings his convoy down, his airplane, and then he flips his 2 armored over on the Eastern Front. And then he's doing the Italians. I don't know why. Oh, I know why I didn't. I didn't bother to take the replacements on that convoy because it was just, he could just bomb it anyway or make it move. And that would leave me enough points to, we get to Axis mobilization. He builds an infantry and garrisons all over the place. We go into Western mobilization. I build the Malta unit. Unfortunately for the West, you can only build 1 unit a turn when you lose England like this. If I had been thinking, I could have probably put the 10th there and put another garrison here. I didn't see the point. Okay, so that was there. Axis didn't have anything to build, and we go into the diplomacy phase for the Axis. They finally pull a pro marker. This was, as I stated in the last video, this was a mistake on our part. He really should have had an extra pro marker in the bucket and not a pro marker here in Belgrade. But, you know, too many things had gone by before I realized that was incorrect. So he goes ahead and puts that on the turn track and then activates Yugoslavia, goes around setting it up. So Italy's going to get back its factory in Durazzo. here in a second in the next turn. The British, and then the Germans. Is this the West? Yeah, I put in another pro marker, political success marker, and pulled in no event. So that was disappointing to say the least. And then we go into March. There was nothing here except some variable entry die rolls to be done. So I go grab a couple of Brits. Or no, Brits only had their Ultra. It comes in 4 turns, so it'll be in July. So even Ultra won't help me here, but we know what he rolls. The weather for March now is a 5-2-4, which is, now we're in March. That's severe, poor, and poor. And that's what we need to do there. And now he's +6 to 0, so he cannot lose a factory under any conditions. He couldn't before at +4. And we forgot to do the economy phase. We kind of blew right by everything, went straight to strategic warfare. At least I did in my brain. So he gave a point to the Yugoslavs and a point to the Turks. So strategic warfare against the West is +6 to 0. He rolls a 7. And I rolled a 1, unfortunately. I was hoping that I could roll a 5 or 6, and I'd be down to 5 lost factories, which would annoy him, but it didn't work. And now, what is he doing? Get these things off the map so you can see what he's doing. I think he strategically moves this armored unit from Europe over here to the Romanian border. We go to Western Strategic Movement. I don't have one. Soviets. Didn't have one. So we go to the Axis subphase. Activate the 6th garrison to finish the conquest of Kuwait. And he goes back and sits in Basra. And these Turks start moving up to the front where all the Russians are. 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4. And he stopped back there. So I don't want to put the garrison in front line. Like, makes sense. And then he, because it's poor weather, he has to do an assault here. And I believe he brings this Yugoslav goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He gets back his willpower, goes back to 10, and he gets a factory count up to 6 for the Italians. And then this Yugoslav moves down here. They do an assault here. They start off at -1 because they're -1 for the weather, -1 for the city, but +1 for a buddy. Started at 0 with the Turk. This guy here's the primary. Just a little flashing thing. So he I started off at -2. I went ahead and I said, I thought I was isolated, but I wasn't because I could actually had a retreat route. So he was at a net of -1 to my -2. We went to combat commitment. I threw a ground support. He rolled a 1. I rolled a 5, -1 is a 4. And it comes back in 2 turns. I think he threw... I'm not sure what he threw there because I don't... He didn't have anything he could throw in there. I don't know why he rolled. And then the first Yugoslavian army moves down to keep the guy that just took Durazzo in supply. And this armor just goes running to the east. And then he ran the Africa army down to Trieste. And he flew his airplane back into Aalborg so that he could supply it and get it down on its sorties. Then he attacked Plymouth. I started off at -1, so I added a tank to be, and then I threw my free forces too, so I ended up at a net +1. And he was +1, 2. I think he threw his, yeah, he's 1, 2, 3, 4, -2, +2. Because of the weather in the city. He rolls a 7. I rolled a 3. So I'm not eliminated, but I am retreated. So it takes Plymouth. And he also moved a German army down to help try and take out Greece. And then he's moving German armies around to try and get them all in place. And he did this wrong. He's supposed to move the Italian first, but and he brings his convoy up to Venice with, bring something back. He brought an Italian back from the Middle East. Then he was done, and he goes into his supply phase, I believe. And we're in Western actions. These stupid alarms. Okay, and what I'm doing is I'm just trying to have the 10th attack and die, which it does. I rolled a 1. He rolled a 6 for me, 5 + 1, so he actually should have been +2. Oh no, he's in low supply. So he threw in an airplane to make it +1, and it worked. So there was an itty-bitty chance that I could roll a 6 and he would roll a 1, and I would force him to retreat, and then I would take back Plymouth, and he'd have to attack the city again. So he went ahead and used the airplane just to make sure. There's no supply for me to worry about. Actions for the Soviets. And the reason why I did that is that the Turks could have, from this position here, they could have moved to there, unless I have a guy actually sitting in that space. So that's why I did that. And then he supplies one guy. Brings down his sorties. He's fixing his fighters. And I think that's it for him. Did his Italians. We go into mobilization for the Axis, West, and Soviets. Why didn't I mobilize something with the West? I had 6 points. I don't know why I didn't build the Gibraltar garrison. See, another mistake on the West part. So, we get to diplomacy. The Germans spend their 5 and they get an area seized, which is very nice for me because that means that the Russians get to have their last place conquered. They get up to their 97 will points. And then the West put in the last political success, and they pulled it. The Soviets pulled it. So it was like, yay. Then I had to think, what did I want to do with it? I could say, well, let's keep Finland out of the war. I mean, that's a choice. I can't, make anybody join my side here because there's nobody close enough. So my choice was really to take out Finland or take out Sweden. And I chose to take out Sweden. I really don't fear the Finns. He activates the Finns, I get a couple Russian units, and I'm not really afraid of the Finns until Germans come and help them, which would be a problem because he needs to have his convoy to supply England. So he would have to choose. So I took out Sweden. I knew there was still a couple political successes in the cup that I might be able to, do something with. Maybe I could get lucky, pull another one, and I'd take Finland out as well. But by Sweden being gone, there's none of the shenanigans that I like to pull as the Germans, which is you activate Sweden with one of these spurious production pro markers. Sweden helps you garrison Norway, and then there's an overland route into like Oslo or Malmo or someplace to supply a German unit in Helsinki. So you can actually have a full supply German unit at helping you attack Viborg and attacking from the western side of Leningrad. So I was just trying to prevent that. And go to the end of turn phase. Can't remember if there was a bunch of stuff to do. I think we just get back some markers. Yep. Then we go into April. And then we go to the weather phase again. And here we go. A 1, 4, 5. So he got a poor because it was severe. Go down to the severe line here. A 1 is poor. He's on the poor line for the other two. And he rolled a 4, which is poor, and a 5, which is poor. So basically it made everything go to poor. We go here. And no declarations of war. And then we're just doing economies. Didn't give anybody any points, I don't think, this turn. Nope, he gave one to the Yugoslavs and one to the Italians. And the British gave one to the Greeks because I thought maybe he might, flip me or something with a proper assault, and I wanted to have an extra point to be able to move and or flip myself with the Greeks. And I saw no reason to not do that with the British. Ultimately, I probably should be building those garrison units just so that they're out there in North America so I can do things with them, but I wasn't thinking too clearly. I'm definitely shell-shocked how quickly England fell and how badly I played. So now he's up to +5 because he doesn't have the airplane in Stavanger anymore. So I'm at +5. Or he's at +5 and I'm at 0. He rolls an 8. I need to roll a 6, which I couldn't do, so boom. And then he's strategic movement. So moves another Italian up to the front. He's got like 4 here now, I think. 4 or 5 Italians. So I'm going to be invaded by the Italians. And then the Russians said, well, you want to know something? I don't need to worry about my back door here. But the Turks are getting kind of antsy here. So we're going to put some Russian armies down here. And then he officially launches an assault there, sets up an assault to go here. So So he's got assaults on both Greek units. And that was why he gave an extra one to the Yugoslavs so that they could move all 3 units. So here's doing, I think, this attack first. I'm not sure where it's going. So I think it was here because he's 0, 1, 2 to -2 for the weather and the rough terrain. So it's right now at 0 to 0. And I think we're going to combat commitment. This seemed like a good place to commit it, so now it's 0 to +1. Excuse me. He rolls a 2. I rolled a 3. So, and it comes back in 4 turns. And then he does, I think he does the one to the north now. I'm at -2. He throws his tanks in with his German. That makes him 3, plus the Italian is 4, -2. So he should be +2 to my -2. He rolled a 5. I managed to roll a 6 -2, which was enough to hold Sri Lanka 1 more turn. Greeks are turning out to be better than the British at defending their homeland. Then he had to move the convoy over here to Trieste, and then moves the Africa army into Beirut. And then he moves that German army. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to Glasgow. I don't really know why he was doing that, but he did. And then he moves this Norwegian army up. And moves this German army down. Gets the Italian out of the way so he can put the Panzer in the front. And this garrison comes garrison army goes into Calais. I don't know what he was doing here. So now it's Axis supply, and he lets them both go to no supply and 1 to low supply, because he's going to wants to get his convoy down as low as possible before he goes into Russia, so he doesn't have to spend points to bring it back up to keep someone in supply in England. And then we talked about it, and he said, yeah, I've got the points to replace him, so I might as well keep him in supply. He did the same thing here. He's like, I'm just going to swap them back and forth. And then he goes... We were just talking about where I could retreat to. I had 2 points and nothing to do with the Greeks, so I had to move to a place where zone of control didn't exist, and they moved right back into their defensive positions, just for kicks. Then the Russians go, I think I'm going to do this. Down here. Then I flew to there. Now that's a mistake. If you go back to here, where I should have flown was to here. Because there I would still cover all my front, but I would be out of range of the Italians, which you'll see when they declare war on Russia. So it was a mistake, another mistake on my part. I'm making a lot of them. Anyway, I'm all lined up like I'm going to do a forward defense here. And I said, you know, what turn is it? It's April. And I'm just sure that he's going to roll fair weather. And I have a guy to build this turn. So this is I was all set up looking like I was going to do a forward defense. And then I run. Oops, I'm doing backwards. Sorry. So I try to give myself a little bit of space to make his infantry not quite as efficient. If I had a brain, I probably would have run everybody, just run 8 hexes straight back as far as we can get away from him. And then we get into the no supply phase. And then we go into Axis replacements. They bring their aircraft and their fleets down. Flip over their infantry. And did his Italian air down here. That's why we're in the Middle East. And I talked to him about, did you really want to not keep him in supply or whatever? And we figured we had miscounted. He forgot to take that guy up to keep him in supply. And I brought him down to 4 sorties, thinking I could move the 9th back to England or towards England, you know, the West, North America or whatever. Then we are in mobilization phase. He built his this thing there, and I believe, yes, I built the BEF, and then I built the last Russian army in Riga, and we're into diplomacy phase for the Axis. They pulled one of the 2 political successes, which means bad things for the Russians. So he has nowhere really to put this. We talked about where he should put it. You know, he doesn't. He could activate Finland now to make sure that the 1 in a billion shot that the Russians have of pulling the political success wouldn't pull that marker off the board. And then we also looked at what else he could do. And ultimately, this is us just looking in the cup to see what the odds are. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have a 1 in 12 shot of pulling a political success, which is what he was trying to figure out. What was my chances? Not very good chances, but he didn't want to take, you know, if I were me, I wouldn't have taken the chance. I would have taken Finland. But he chose to go ahead and just drop a pro marker in Vichy. I think he's trying to conquers Russia. He can get Vichy to come in on his side, and then he can start working political shenanigans with Spain to go get Gibraltar. That's my take on it anyway. And then we go from Western. West didn't have any points. The Russians said, what the heck, let's pull. I got a no event. And turn updated from diplomacy phase to victory check to end of turn. Again, the end of turn is just us getting some markers. The most important thing here is what happens to the British. He gets his ground support for his miners. He gets his surprise attack marker. And the British move Lend-Lease out 6, and now they have 4 factories, so they have 8 production points. So they actually can, you know, build and replenish almost every turn now. Then we go into the weather phase for May. And he rolls a 1, and a 3, which is horrible for me. A 1 is fair in the cold zone. A 1 is fair in the mild zone. And a 3 is fair in the warm zone. So for him, everything becomes fair. And we ended here because we're pretty sure he's going to declare war on Russia, and he's got a huge offensive that he has to try and get through. So there you have it, first third of the year, January through April of 1940. Not huge amount of stuff going on. The most impressive thing was the Germans, since they took out Britain and got to Italy, they've only gotten two political successes in like 9 turns of polling, when they have 5 pros and a couple of political successes in there. And one of their polls was the area seized marker. So it was like very bad diplomacy polls for the Germans, but then again, it doesn't really matter for them because they basically own the map. There's no chance for the British to come in because they expended their surprise attack marker for a frivolous idea of being able to hold out in the Middle East while England fell. That didn't work, so I probably should have just saved it and just waited, and then he would have to keep these units in supply in England. Otherwise, I'd just come back right away and just recapture everything in 42 or in late 41 or whatever. Anyway, that's January through April 1941. As always, I'm Gen608. If you like my videos, please subscribe. Also, hit that like button because YouTube uses those likes to decide what comes up when somebody searches for unconditional surrender. And if we get a bunch of likes, then these things will pop up in people's radars when they come looking to see what's out here. Until we meet again, stay safe and bye-bye.